evening and thank you for watching MAK TV. It is the 17th day of December 2020 and you are right on time for the MAK News at 9. My name is Kabazira.
And I am Sadam Muballe.
Sadam, can you imagine over 8,000 girls have fallen pregnant during the COVID-19 lockdown?
That is a very worrying report indeed.
This and many more stories are coming up in our bulletin tonight, but first the headlines. Teenage pregnancy cases surged during the lockdown.
Should behaves that help girls.
And Uganda and Tanzania sign an oil pipeline project.
At plateau of production, the rest will be shipped.
Welcome back, and here is the news in detail. Over 8,000 adolescent girls have fallen pregnant during this COVID-19 lockdown. With schools closed, many were forced to marry off and others even caught sexually transmitted diseases.
I was in the field and sexual reproductive health experts say that this is a looming situation and if not dealt with immediately, could raise a young and unproductive population.
We have more about this story.
COVID-19 has united the world in an immeasurable way. While many have struggled with the effects of the global pandemic, it has had the worst consequences on most vulnerable populations, being teenage girls. After shutting the schools in March to stop the spread of COVID-19, there was no clear plan of when schools would reopen, leaving teenage girls exposed to teenage pregnancy, child marriage, defilement, and rape, among others. 17-year-old Viola Berchan has been attending antenatal services at Pakwach Health Center 4. She is 7 months pregnant. She says after schools were closed, she went to visit an aunt whose daughter convinced her to get a boyfriend.
The daughter of my uncle started advising me how girls should behave, that girls should have boyfriends. It was 1 month and a half. I was not even happy because of this pregnancy. My friend started advising me that I should remove this pregnancy.
Vivian Alike, a midwife at Pakwach Health Center 4, says the facility receives 500 mothers seeking antenatal services, and of these, over 200 are teenage mothers, saying the number has skyrocketed during the pandemic.
So, just if you check in the register, of course, you will see that the number of people, of mothers who are underage, are much higher than before.
The district health officer in Pakwach says that the district has struggled with the vice, but the numbers rose worryingly during the lockdown.
Girls dropping out of school, which existed even before the lockdown. And when these girls drop out of school, they're definitely the next thing they're exposed to is getting into a house and starting a family.
Charles Owekmeno, the National Coordinator for Sexual Reproductive Health Alliance in Uganda, terms the situation as a looming national crisis.
The majority of these young people will actually drop out of school, and for their future, completely ruined, their career is ruined there. So how do we still get these young people back on the development track is a national question that we must answer urgently.
Schools reopened for candidates to complete their academic year in September 2020, but a huge number of those in lower classes still at home remain vulnerable to the vice. Reporting from MAK News at 9, I am Kabazira. Following this story, kindly go to our social media platforms, that is Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at MAK TV, and share your opinion on what teenage girls can do or how we can protect them from getting pregnant as they wait for schools to reopen.
And later on, we shall be reading your opinions on this cast. Moving on, one person has died and thousands displaced and properties destroyed by floods in Pakwach district after Lake Albert burst its banks.
Local authorities say that they have gone to the office of the Prime Minister for rescue with no success.
Our own Olivia Komugisha was there, and this is what she has prepared for us.
What used to be a road to a number of homesteads in Pujang Central Village in Pakwach Town Council 4 months earlier is currently covered by floods following the rise in the Lake Albert water levels. This has forced several residents to use boats to access their homes and businesses. At least one person has died trying to cross the flooded water, according to local authorities.
In Pujang village in Pakwach Town Council, These people have been dealing with floods for the last 4 months. What's unfortunate is that the government, which they believe should have come in already to help the locals, has not yet come in. Even when the local council leaders submitted all the necessary data to help to guide the government know the magnitude of this problem.
Major social services have been cut off following the floods. The local authorities are concerned with the effects of the floods in the community.
The sanitary facilities are already washed down. The vector-borne diseases are bound to come in, like malaria. And we still have our indigenous schistosomiasis, which is a problem in this area. So you know that in such a short time we'll have all these related diseases.
Now, these people, they have nowhere to save themselves, and they are trying to mix up with some good Samaritan within the area.
Pujang village is not the only affected area. At least 100,000 people in 9 sub-counties of Pakwach district have been affected by the floods. At Panyimur Fish Market, the water levels had risen beyond the barricades. Some toilet facilities washed away and a number of homesteads evacuated.
There is no fish for those fishermen there. A lot of things. Even the water is not good even for domestic use, because the water level is high, of getting even a blasé and other things is there.
Our attempts to have an interview with Julius Muchunguzi, the spokesperson of the Office of the Prime Minister, which houses the Department of Disaster Preparedness, on the evacuation plans for the affected communities, were futile after he failed to pick our phone calls. Olivia Komugisha, MAK News.
This story will usher us into a short commercial break, and we shall be right back with more. Stay tuned.
What's the process of traveling by bus like? How do you pay for your travel ticket? Crowds, long queues under the scorching sun. Doesn't all this pose a threat to your life amid this COVID-19 pandemic? Well, don't you worry. With YugaBus, touch no one, touch no money, and still get your best travel experience. All you need is to grab your smartphone, download the YugaBus app on Play Store or Apple Store, enter your departure and arrival plus the date of travel, choose the bus operator, enter mobile money number, and pay. Ticket details will be sent to you on your SMS phone. Present the SMS at the bus and travel conveniently. For more information and inquiries, visit www.yugabus.com or Twitter and Facebook at YugaBus.
Welcome from that short commercial break. Now moving on, Uganda and Tanzania have signed an East African oil pipeline project, also known as the EACOP.
The multi-billion-dollar project is expected to cover 1,445 kilometers from Uganda's oil fields in Hoima to Port of Tanga in Tanzania.
My colleague Sadam Muballe has this report.
Uganda and Tanzania have signed an East African oil pipeline project, also known as EACOP, which will allow the construction of a 1,445-kilometer crude oil pipeline from Ugandan oil fields to Port of Tanga in Tanzania.
The East African crude oil pipeline, or EACOP as it is called, is a 1445-kilometer pipeline, and its purpose is to transport the crude oil produced from Uganda, from the Albertine Graben in Hoima, Bulisa, Noya, to the coast through Tanzania to the port of Tanga.
The EACOP project is estimated to cost $3.5 billion and the pipeline will connect Uganda's oil fields to Tanzania's port of Tanga.
Uganda will be producing about 240,000 barrels a day at plateau of production. The rest will be shipped through this pipeline and sold to the international market.
Though the start date of construction has not yet been established for what is said to become East Africa's first major oil pipeline, Peter Mulisa, the Chief Legal and Corporate Affairs Officer at the Uganda National Oil Company, says that the construction will commence once the final investment decision is taken before the end of the year.
For now, the project is ready. We had its front-end engineering and design completed, the studies, all the other studies, environmental impact assessment, social impact assessment done. Right now, the companies are going to start compensating the people whose land has been identified, valued for compensation, and then construction will start as soon as we take final investment decision.
French oil giant Total is leading the plans alongside China's National Offshore Oil Corporation, also known as NOC, Uganda National Oil Company for Uganda, and Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporation for the government of the United Republic of Tanzania.
So the entities that are going to construct and own this pipeline are basically the oil companies that have crude oil in Uganda, Wales in Uganda. And these are currently Total, Sinuk, Talo. The other partner that is going to be a shareholder as well is the Tanzanian Petroleum Development Corporation, TPDC.
About 80% of the pipeline will run through Tanzania, and the project is expected to not only create more jobs for two countries, but will also boom the economy of the countries.
The period of construction will create a lot of opportunity for Ugandans and for Tanzanians.
Oil fields were discovered in Uganda in 2006, but production has been delayed due to lack of infrastructure and the export pipeline. Sadam Muballe for MAK News at 9, Kampala.
Earlier on, we asked you to go to our social media platforms and share your opinion about what you think can be done to prevent teenage girls from getting pregnant as they wait for schools to reopen. Now is the time to check out those opinions.
We shall kickstart with Wally Kauthar, who says that parents should have them engaged in some practical skills like tailoring, cooking lessons, weaving. If that ain't possible for some, these girls could engage in home income generating activities such as rearing chicken, piggery, among others. Also, she continues by saying that also openly discussing sex-related topics to these young girls.
And Basaliza Francis says that parents need to sit down with them and give them some guidance on how to handle their feelings safely, and also that any guy who impregnates should be brought to book. Let's move on to other stories.
On the international scene, Ambrose Dlamini, the Prime Minister of Eswatini, Africa's last monarchy, died in South Africa after contracting the COVID-19 virus.
52-year-old contracted the virus in November and has been receiving treatment in South Africa.
Olivia Komugisha compiled the report.
The Prime Minister of Eswatini, Africa's last absolute monarchy, died in a South African hospital after contracting coronavirus, the government said in a statement. Ambrose Dlamini, 52, had been hospitalized in neighboring South Africa in early December, 2 weeks after testing positive for the COVID-19. The Prime Minister passed on this afternoon while under medical care in a hospital in South Africa. He added, without detailing the cause of Dlamini's death.
The big lesson really that we've learned is that it is absolutely crucial for any country to invest adequately in the health systems. This pandemic found us wanting our health systems definitely not where it was supposed to be.
Dlamini had announced in mid-November that he had tested positive for the coronavirus, but said that he felt well and was asymptomatic. Dlamini, a businessman but political novice, was named Prime Minister in October 2018. The head of government's role is limited in Eswatini, where the current king in power since 1986 names all ministers and controls parliament. Formerly known as Swaziland, the Kingdom of Eswatini has reported over 6,700 coronavirus cases and 127 deaths among its population of 1.2 million people. Olivia Komugisha, MAK News.
In our sports news today, Argentina's playmaker Diego Maradona passed on at 60 after suffering a heart attack.
The legendary footballer led Argentina to win the FIFA World Cup in 1986.
David Masele has this report.
Diego Maradona has passed on today at his home, Buenos Aires, in Argentina, aged 60 after suffering a heart attack. Who is Diego Armando Maradona? Diego Armando Maradona was an Argentine football player and manager born in October 1960. In his international career with Argentina, he earned 91 caps and scored 34 goals. Maradona played in 4 World Cups, including the 1986 World Cup in Mexico, where he captained Argentina and led them to the victory over the West Germans in the final and won the Golden Ball as the tournament's best player. Maradona played for Argentinos Juniors, Boca Juniors, Barcelona, Napoli, Sevilla, and Newell's Old Boys during his club career, and is most famous for his time at Napoli and Barcelona, where he won numerous accolades. He later joined different clubs such as Al Wasl in United Arab Emirates, Mexican club Dorados, and later Gimnasia de la Plata until his death November 2020. Rest in peace, legend. Diego Maradona was considered to be one of the greatest footballers of all time, and his sudden death was a shock to the football community. Reporting for MAK News at 9, I am David Masele.
It's just 28 days to the polling day, to 14th January 2021. Kindly remind our viewers where to follow election proceedings from.
You can get yourself informed by following our social media platforms, that is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at MAK TV. My name is Sadam Muballe.
And I am Kabazira from the team and us. Good
evening.